to mistake, not to mistake the worldly benefits and worldly comforts as necessarily a blessing from God, especially if they don't bring you closer to him. And I would argue that, as I said before, so forgive me of my repetition, which is, I believe to a large degree that Job's suffering are factored in to God providing answers to prayers Job made to him. And that to get there, affliction is part of the route, is part of the road there. And I really do believe that if Christians can really lay hold of this, there is nothing. There's even more reason to never be afraid of what happens to you, even if it be sickness or the loss of home, the loss of child, the loss of whatever. Because we don't know how God is going to bring about his answers to the very things we pray for. And so we know that Job had to go through this serious, extreme affliction. And we know that it yielded him double the return over against what he once had. And it's amazing. But that takes a different type of thinking. I mean, Job's patience has not to do, because I would argue that his patience, when we talk about his patience, had very little to do with enduring his affliction as much as it had to do with the absence of God's presence that he was accustomed to. Because now God has been silent. And this is what Job is frustrated about. And he's going to speak about it in the very next verse, I believe it is. Yeah, in verse 3. And so we have to start, we as believers, we have to think differently than the way the world thinks, because a lot of Christians come into the faith, but they bring that baggage of worldly thinking along with them. Their carnal way of assessing things, their carnal way of filtering out experience. And this is why so many Christians stagnate. This is why so many Christians backslide. And when I explain backsliding means not moving forward. The word doesn't mean, as I said before, it doesn't mean you're going back to the world. Backsliding means not going forward. It means sitting still, stopping in one place, becoming congealed and not moving forward. And this is what can happen. It can cause you to stagnate. And so we want to avoid that at every cost and at every turn. And so Job here, he's saying, listen, you guys know what I believe, and I know what I believe. But he says, I know not just what to believe, but I know why. And this is what he's arguing. He's telling them they don't know why, because if they did, then they would know how to apply it to him. So again, it comes back to that misuse or that misappropriation of this truth that you've been given and not knowing how to affect whatever my problem is. And this is what Job is dealing with right now. It's hard. It's very hard. And I tell you, even studying it and trying to communicate it can be very difficult, because most of us get very, we like to talk a lot about these heavy, lofty theological things. And sometimes we get buried under the complexity of those things that trouble the heart and that bring us despair and that cause depression, that cause anxiety. Those things are more often hard to talk to and to speak to and address. But equality in knowledge demands fairness in judgment. But Job's friends, they used all these truths that they share, to elevate themselves and to team up and condemn him. And so no doubt that they were thinking probably, well, there's three of us here and we are all in agreement. So if we are all in agreement, Job, you must be the one wrong. And this is another thing that people will do. So these three comforters are probably together going like, all three of us, we know these things. All three of us are in agreement that Job was hiding sin. All three of us are in agreement that if Job would just confess his sin and deal with his guilt, there's a chance for him, a window for him to be made right with God. A window. Now imagine the strength in numbers that these guys are probably feeling, looking down on Job, when in fact, he's the one that is more or less right in these things. But we do know that God's going to correct Job too. And I can't wait to talk about what God corrects Job for. But the fact of the matter is, Job never lost his integrity, never lost his faith, and he always clung to his God. And he refuses to accept imbalance when it comes to the contempt that's being showed to his integrity. He's not letting them get under his skin in such a way that it jeopardizes his faith or his walk with the Lord. He's not going to let them challenge his faithfulness to God. He's just not doing that. When so many of us today, when we're confronted with problems, we buy into that kind of hype. And we think that maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe there is some sin in my life. So we go to our bedside and we start whining to God, what have I done? What have I done? But if you don't know what you've done, what Job is telling us is that it's okay to not know. But you have to rest in the Lord and know that he will carry you through it. Job's conscience is always going to be enlightened by the truth. And he appeals to that over and over again throughout the book. In verse 3, Job says, surely, he told his friends, surely I would speak to the Almighty, and I would desire to reason with God. This is what he's really longing for. He wants an engagement. He wants an audience with God. I mean, think about it. He got his three friends there, and he's like, I can't talk to you guys. I can't reason with you. He's not saying that they're dumb or stupid or they don't have the truth. That's not what he's saying. He's just simply saying they don't understand what's going on with him. And he says, I want an audience with God. And he's not being defiant. He's not showing a display of unbelief. But Job understands the covenant that he has with God. He understands that he has the authorization to go before him just like you do today. We are told in the Word of God to come before him boldly. To be bold. Ask him anything. Level your complaints to him. Fill your mouth with arguments and cry out to him. Annoy him to no end. Just annoy him, nag at him over and over again. This is what the Lord welcomes. Be the biggest nag in the brood. He will hear you and he will respond, and he will do so in his time. But he will do it because he's promised that he would. Brother Jeffrey, go ahead.
Jonathan, one of the things that has gotten me about the first 12 chapters, which we've completed, and of course tonight we're starting chapter 13, is that all three of his friends have now unloaded, if I may use that term, on Job. Each one of them one at a time, and the other two have listened to the other one just rip Job to pieces.
Right.
Now, verse 13 or chapter 13, Job begins to defend himself. It seems to me that if his friends had any common sense at all, they would begin to question what they are doing to Job. But they don't. So again, I mean, they are friends of Job. We understand that. But again, Jonathan, I think I raised this point here a while back. It makes me wonder just how much wisdom and how much of God they actually possess.
True.
Because they're well, they're not listening. I'll put it that way. That's the nicest way I can say it. It's really aggravating in a way, because Job has made his case, sir, clearly.
Right.
He's made it clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And his friends are like, duh, like, it's like, okay, when are you guys going to listen?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't.
But it was interesting about Job, as I said before earlier, he doesn't come back at them the way they come at him. He still, for whatever reason, and I know it's because he's a godly man, he doesn't come back at them the same way. He just doesn't. He doesn't respond the same way with them. It's like he's almost trying in a subtle way, trying to elevate them, even though he's the one in this lowly position. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like Job sees them as being in a position that is low on the spiritual side.
Right.
Yeah. And this is what's happening. Yeah. And it's beautiful to watch.
It is.
Because he does it all through the way he exercises what he knows about God.
Right.
And he's not like, and I think that I think that Job could probably be very surgical when it came to each one of them individually, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it.
He doesn't.
He never does.
No, he doesn't.
He tries to reason, but here's the thing: what he realizes is that I have nowhere to go. I thought you guys are going to be my support system, or at least part of it. I thought you might be the instruments that God is using to help my misery, to commiserate with me. And he doesn't get that. So now Job has the additional role of affliction to endure, the additional layer of affliction, which is to educate those who are supposed to comfort him. and this is you really can't go by what you see. This is what we have to understand. We can't go by how it looks, whether it's outwardly or whether it's inwardly. And Job is not hiding. So look, this is what he says, because this is what a lot of people do. He says, surely I would speak to the Almighty. I desire to reason with God. Now, here's the thing. Job loses it all. And I keep saying these things over because I want it to be refreshed as we go. Loses all his wealth. He loses his business. Loses his home. Loses his wife. Loses his 10 children. Loses his health. Loses the comfort of his friends. Gets aggravated or gets piled on aggravations to his affliction by his friends. It's almost as if God and the devil are siding together against him, but Job doesn't know. But it could feel like that. Many Christians would say, I'm done with this. What kind of God would allow me to suffer like this? What God would allow me, would take away all my kids? I've been worshiping him at this church every Sunday. I've been going to Sunday school. I've been taking my kids to catechism. I've been praying with them. I've been praying with my wife. I sent my son off to seminary. I sent my daughter off to here in this school and that school. I did all these things. I prayed 3 times a day. I did all these things. And then he takes everything from me. What kind of a God would do that? This is most people. I'm sure everybody here knows somebody whose faith was shipwrecked because they got the slightest degree. They got the affliction knob turned up to 0.00001, and the whole world is over. The decibels on his affliction can shatter an entire neighborhood. And what does he do? I would speak to the Almighty and desire to reason with God. You know what kind of Christian you have to be to go through what he went through? To have that be what you're saying after having gone through all of this? You know what kind of person you have to be? Job is like, he's like, listen, I understand you guys know the doctrine. I understand you got the doctrine. I understand you know that. But I need something else. I need something that affects my inner soul. I need encouragement. I need you to help me appeal to my God. But since you won't, because you're too busy trying to show me how wise you are and how ignorant of the truth that I have and how I am such a sinner, I have no place else to go but to go before the Lord himself. But to go before the Lord himself, to seek the presence of the Almighty, to reason with him, because I can't reason with you. I was hoping that we could do that. I was hoping that we could do that. But it seems that that is not something that you are prepared to do or equipped to do. Sister Tyson, what are your thoughts, sister?
Man, I'm sitting here looking. So we're in 13, and Job says, let come on me what may.
Mm-hmm.
He says, though he slay me, I will hope in him.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I will argue my ways to his face. It's uncomprehendable, to be honest. It's beautiful.
Yep, it really is. It really is. But I love this thing. I need to talk to God. I'm later for you guys. I need to hear from the Almighty. You got nothing for me. Job wants judicial reasoning. He wants to sit before God and have God analyze him. Search my heart, O God. Search my heart. I need my communion back. What happened? I know you're there. How long will you be silent, O God? How long will you allow me to sit in the dust and ashes? How long will you suffer me to be whipped by the tongue of these men? Let me hear from you. Don't subject me to these mouths, these lions. Lift my head up and show me what I need to know. Job wants his God to come into the picture. Faith here doesn't silence inquiry. Faith perpetuates it. Faith motivates it. Don't get quiet and shut in. Don't close off. Faith produces a fervent inquiry into God's whereabouts. Chase him down. Run the Lord down until you catch him. Wrestle with him like Job did. And you will know what it feels like to be an Israelite indeed. Brother Pat, go ahead.
You referred to these friends as lions, and you know what just clicked in my head, Jonathan? The beginning of Job. What does God call Job? Have you considered my what? My servant Job. So a story of a suffering servant surrounded by lions. That sounds very familiar.
Yep. Where do you think?
I'm thinking Psalm 53.
Yep. Yeah, you know, Job is like, he's like, I don't know if there could be a greater example in the Bible of loneliness at this moment in Job's situation. Because the Bible certainly doesn't talk about anyone who suffered as much as he did. There's no, I'm not saying that there aren't, but there's no record of it. And I'm sure, and I want to believe that the reason why we have this record of Job is probably because it is the worst. And the reason why I say, when you consider when you consider his status before God, being the most righteous man on all the earth, which means he had a very strong, close, tight, persistent relationship with God. He had everything. Now he loses everything, but he didn't lose his faith. He didn't lose his integrity. He maintained righteousness before God, and God used him as the most formidable opponent that was available on earth for Satan to contend with. So Job has lost everybody. He lost his family, most of them through death. His wife turned her back on him, and now his friends. And so if he was an atheist, I wouldn't say he was a lonely man. But now he sees he's a man who is not an atheist, who loves Lord, has always loved God, has always loved him, has always been faithful, has never charged God foolishly. Everyone has turned against him. He has no business relationships, no relationships of any type that he can go to and flee to for comfort. And now it appears that even God himself won't even answer him. It is his relationship to God that makes what he's going through right now monumentally lonely. Lonely. If you spend half your time looking for the comfort of others and half the time looking for comfort from God, when everything is lost, well, you have half the loneliness maybe. But if you've had a full heart toward God, regardless of what you had in life, when he is not speaking to you, when he is not having fellowship with you, when he is not seeming to show his face upon you, that's the ultimate kind of loneliness. To feel that he is not accessible to you or making himself accessible to you. But what does Job do? He keeps clinging. He doesn't run. He doesn't say, I can't be with a God who lets all this happen to me. Because that reveals what you were in it for in the first place. It wasn't for him. It was for you. We submit our lives, we submit our whole persons in humility to God, in service to the Lord Jesus Christ. We submit ourselves to him, not for ourselves. I know this is a prominent theme in gospel preaching, but we do it to glorify him. We just get the secondary benefit of it, the inheritance. We get to be made partakers of this monumental and inexhaustible inheritance. We don't deserve it. We just don't deserve it. Job understands that clarity and vindication cannot come from men whose judgment is flawed. He's not getting anything from his friends. He's not getting anything from them. So he does what he's been doing. He keeps leveling his appeals to God. God, would you step in and do something for me? Hear me. Answer me. I'm frustrated. I see where your providence has taken me, and I believe that you always do right. You're the judge of the earth. You will always do right. He's like, just give me a little something to hang on to, because I got no one else, but I know you are always with me. He never doubts that. He tells his friends in verse 4, but you are forgers of lies. You are all physicians. Listen, he says you are all physicians of no value. You see Job's teeth coming out? You see his teeth coming out? You are forgers of lies. What are they lying about? They're lying about him. They're lying about him. He says you are physicians which have no value. See, he's progressively anteing things up. Brother Jeffrey, go ahead.
Jonathan, I've been waiting for you for a while for you to get to verse 4, because here a while back when I was a couple chapters ahead of you trying to see what was coming, I got to verse 4 of chapter 13 and I read what Job said here, and I just put the Bible down and I just laughed myself silly for about 10 minutes. It was great. My translation, and I know you don't always agree with my translation, Jonathan, my Bible, but it says in verse 4, you, however, smear me with lies. And get this, he says to them, you are worthless physicians, all of you, worthless. Jonathan, in clean, acceptable language, you can't hit anybody much harder than that than with the word worthless.
Yep.
I mean, he is really putting his friends in their place, which is what he needs to do and what he does here.
Right. This is like Joe. I mean, you're right, Joe. Jeffrey, you're right about the translations, because I know the words. I know what they mean, and so I get it. But you can see, like, let me say what I mean. A difference, right? So, like, when he says you are forgers of lies, right? And I forgot what word yours was, but I know that the English translated from the same Greek words, but that word means. It's not just that they smeared him with lies. It's that they chiseled it. They chiseled lies. They took time to construct lies to level at him. This is what he's saying. He's talking about, he's basically making it seem as though they took care in constructing, like Mariah says, customizing their lies for him. It's much stronger than it's much stronger than it sounds, but it's like he's like saying they took special care. They got the instruments and they carefully carved out these lies to level at Job. They had an agenda, like Candy says, premeditated. That's what it sounds like. That's exactly what it sounds like. And then when he says you are physicians of no value, think of it like a doctor found guilty of malpractice. Because what is malpractice? Sister Maria, you're new up here, I think, for the first time. Let me ask you a question, sister, if you don't mind taking the question. If you don't, that's okay. I'll understand. But what do you think he means when he says that when he says you are physicians of no value, and he makes it akin to malpractice? What's the malpractice here?
Hi.
Hey, Maria.
I think that, yeah, he's basically saying that they're like doctors without credentials. They're giving him they're giving him bad advice as from the enemy, from their own selfish gain, not from God and not believing God.
But if you go to the hospital, right? If you go to the hospital and they put you under, and you wake up and your foot's on the wrong leg, and your foot's on the wrong leg, what are you going to do and why? You're going to sue, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to sue why?
Because they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. And not knowing what they're doing means that they provided the wrong treatment to address the wrong problem. Yeah. And this is what's been going on. Job's friends, brethren, they have been misdiagnosing Job all along. And that's why he tells them, you're guilty of spiritual malpractice. You're doing me no good. And he's calling them out on it. Anything else you want to add, Maria?
Well, his friends are definitely not physicians of the soul. So.
No. And that's exactly what he wants. That's exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's what you should have as a companion, because God says two are better than one, right? Well, that's these friends, were there like two of them or three of them? They weren't better to be in his presence to help him get closer to God.
That's right. Absolutely, sister. And I appreciate you coming up. I really do. I really appreciate it. And feel free to come back and hang around for a while if you want to. I'll pick on you some more a little later. Sister Lisa, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, a physician is there to heal and to help. And originally that's what they claimed to be doing. But not only did they fail at doing that, they actually did harm to this man, not just trying to treat him for for symptoms that weren't there. But all their allegations hurt him. I mean, these people are supposed to be his friends. So, I mean, he's basically calling them out. You know, they would have been better just to keep their mouth shut, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's like I always say, if you can't be kind, just be quiet. Be quiet.
So,
you know,
and to address your point, sister, another aspect, a key element to receiving medical treatment starts when you first walk in to get on their bed when they are going to examine you or whatever. There's one key thing that every doctor is expected to have. Does anybody know what that is? What I'm talking about? Before
they're supposed to make a correct diagnosis.
No, but even before that,
they gotta have a complaint, don't they?
They do what?
Integrity.
They gotta have a complaint. They gotta know what you're there for. To know what they can start looking for.
The credentials.
No, not the credentials. There's something else. You got to have. You assume they got credentials when you walk in.
A stethoscope.
But wait a minute. Are you asking what does the doctor need when the person walks in, or the person when they walk in with the doctor?
No, I'm asking what is the type of treatment? What is the first aspect of treatment that the doctors have a responsibility to administer before they do anything regarding diagnosis or anything else? What's the first thing that they are expected to exhibit in a show to you?
Respect and compassion.
Somebody said compassion. John Langlois said it. This is what I'm looking for. Bedside manner. Bedside manner, right? You've all heard that, right? Bedside manner. This is something they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make you comfortable, especially when they are prepared, when they have to be prepared to potentially tell you bad news. It's important that a doctor have bedside manner, which is, like Floyd says and Selah said, compassion. Job's friends did not show any compassion to him. No compassion. And all they did was level at him accusations about sin in his life that they could not substantiate, nor did they even try. They didn't even try. They came up with a whole bunch of fabricated conclusions about him, saying a whole lot of things that are principally true, but not applicable to him. And so, just like an ineffective physician, they aggravate the wound instead of healing it. Spiritual malpractice. They're not looking at the man. They're looking and diagnosing something that has nothing to do with him. And it's just fortunate for them that they were not able to overturn Job's faith, because most people would probably break under these circumstances. Most people would probably break. And so it can be a trying time when you're going through something, and even those closest to you that claim to love you dogpile on you to the point where even they start making you second guess if you're a Christian or not. Don't listen to them. One of the things that we need to learn from Job is what he said in verse 3. Surely I'm going to have my word with the Almighty.